Hi guys, and welcome back to King's Aquarium and Ant World. Here we have our new Isopods for our aquarium ant nest build, Philoscia Muscorum, or common striped woodlice. These are second creatures that are going to populate our tank in the nest area. The first were our dairy cow Isopods. We'll link you to that video in the description. And we're also going to be adding some Springtails as well, which you'll see in a minute also. Here is a closer look at them under the lights. You can see them a bit better. One of them is trying to come out already. They do look really pretty. There's some like yellowy colours and some reddy browny colours in there as well. So hopefully they get on well in the tank. Here they've been added into the tank and you can see them moving around a bit. They seem to be rather enjoying themselves, so that's good. They seem to like the environment so far, so we'll just see how they get on. Here are the Springtails. You can see them, they're tiny little white little tiny teeny little isopods that live in the soil and just act as a clean-up crew really, so that'll be good. We're going to add them to the snail tank and to the tank you just saw where we had the new isopods. Now added the little Springtails to the tank where we've put the isopods in. You can see them all running around a little bit, getting used to their surroundings. They'll go down into the soil and in the moss and everything soon and settle in. Here you can see where I've added them in the giant African land snail tank. They'll soon sort themselves out, go down in the soil, probably on the bogwood and everywhere, and add to clean up all the waste that the snails produce, which is really good. The isopods are not insects. They are actually from the order of Crustacea, or they're crustaceans, terrestrial crustaceans. So they're actually more closely related to like shrimp and lobsters and crabs rather than insects. They are detritivores, so they consume dead organic material. And like in the wild, out in nature, they're usually found like in leaf litter on the ground or in rotting or dead wood, and usually moist areas. Isopods are usually happy kept at around 70 to 85 Fahrenheit or 21 to 29 Celsius, with like over 55% humidity. They like a lot of humidity in that. If they're crustaceans, they like humidity and moisture. And they also prefer to be in the dark. If isopods find themselves in unfavourable conditions, then they speed up, move around really, really quickly until they find an area with like their preferred conditions that they like, where they'll slow down again. So if you notice your isopods moving around their enclosure more rapidly than usual and they haven't been disturbed, that usually means something isn't right with their environment. If you see them moving around like sort of slow or like they're in groups huddled together, then it's actually healthy behaviour for them to be displaying. Isopods can be kept as a clean-up crew to a main animal, usually like reptiles. They're kept in with them. So that would mean that they're being kept as secondary inhabitants of the tank, and if they're just kept in an enclosure as the main pet, then they're called the primary inhabitants. If you keep them as a primary inhabitant, an enclosure of about 1.5 litres is normally okay for like a starter colony until they get bigger, and they do need vented tops, so they have good airflow and everything. And then just a few inches of soil with quite crushed up leaf litter all mixed in, and a small layer of leaf litter on top. That is good as well because they like to eat that. You just got to boil the leaf litter first to make sure there's no pests in it. And they also like their enclosures, mist them daily with like room temperature water so that they don't dry out. And if you do keep more than one species of isopod together, then you've got to make sure there's plenty of resources in the enclosure so they don't have to compete too much, because otherwise ultimately one species of isopod will end up dominating and the other species will die out. If they are a primary inhabitant, then you need to ensure that they do have nutrients-rich foods. A lot of people tend to feed theirs the Repashy morningwood or bug burger, which also has a lot of calcium in as well and nutrients. That's what a lot of isopod keepers feed their isopods. Isopods do need a good source of calcium to make sure that they can grow healthy exoskeletons and everything. So carbone or oyster grit is usually given. Some people do even mix calcium powder into the substrate as well. Leaf litter, magnolia leaves are quite good because they're generally not very expensive and they're thicker than other leaves, so they're longer lasting. A lot of people do use live oak and sea grape leaves as well. It's said to avoid feeding them fish flakes as a food because that can attract detritus mites. Rice can also attract flying pests, so that should also be avoided. And cereal and dog food are also said to slow the growth of a colony of isopods and also attract unwanted pests. So overall, not a great food to feed them. If you plan to keep isopods as secondary inhabitants, then they'll get loads of nutrients from the waste that the animal provides. The nutrients filter through the animal and come out in their waste. And if the habitat is planted, then obviously fallen leaves and dead plant matter will also provide food for the isopods, which is good. Isopods are good for breaking down like large bits of matter, and then springtails are able to break down smaller bits that they leave behind. Springtails in general aren't great for just getting rid of really big bits of waste, It's said to allow 3 to 6 weeks for the isopods to get established in that habitat before you introduce the primary inhabitant, just so they can get established and keep it extra moist to help reproduction take place as much as possible during the acclimation as well. So you get a good number of them before you introduce the things. Make sure that the primary inhabitants are well fed so they don't eat all the isopods. I mean, they may still eat the odd few, but it shouldn't take the colony down to dangerous levels. Some food that people have had success in feeding their isopods. A lot of people say cucumber, but that is really low in nutrients, so it's not great food to feed them. Other people said yellow squash, pumpkin, eggplant if you're in the US, aubergine if you're in the UK, carrot, and then zucchini if you're in the US, and courgette if you're in the UK. Spinach, kale, and kale is high in calcium as well. Green, red, yellow, or orange bell peppers. And I found these when I feed that to the snails, the isopods go mad over that as well. And mushrooms are particularly favoured by springtails, apparently. Some say feeding a dead insect can bring on breeding as well. My isopods really like fresh killed mealworms. They seem to enjoy them, and they're high in protein and everything, So, and I do gut load them with calcium-rich food as well. So, other people have fed their isopods pinkies, which are like baby dead mice, and dead roaches as well are quite enjoyed. I've also read people who keep aquariums, if they have fish that die, they also feed them to their isopods as well. Why not? They also enjoy eating, wood. They'll eat that and live in it and everything. I put a lot of moss in mine because that holds a lot of moisture, which isopods love as well. So my isopods seem to love the mossy section of the enclosure a lot more also. That's about it for my information and everything. So, thank you very much for watching, and enjoy the rest of the video, seeing the isopods all move around in my various enclosures. Thank you for this video. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. We also have a few new builds underway as well, so stay tuned for those.